Welcome to Behind the Mic with AudioFile magazine, where the subjects are audiobooks and the actors who narrate them. I'm Joe Reed, and with me, I have Alex Richey. And Alex, I know what you're going to be talking about today. 3 books, and why don't you share what the theme is and what the books are?
Sure. So my theme is vampires, monsters, and witches. You're going to get a good taste of fantasy and sci-fi from these.
Yes, I definitely am. And one reason I love talking to you is that these are not the books I will pick up because I get scared so easily. But anyway, go ahead, but because there is a surprise coming. So tell me the books you're talking about. Share them.
Sure. So today we're going to talk about Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, read by Julia Whelan, Katie Leung, and Marisa Calin. Then we'll be talking about Of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove, read by a full cast. And last, we'll talk about The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, read by Gisela Chípe.
Okay, so we're beginning with Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, which is really kind of a fantastic title. Tell us about that book.
All right, so I remember looking forward to this ever since I read Schwab's last book. She is one of my favorite authors, and this was no exception. So this is a sapphic vampire story that follows 3 women from 3 different centuries. Each of their perspectives is voiced by a unique narrator.
Hence, Julia Whelan, Katie Leung, and Marisa Calin.
That's right. So we're starting off with Julia Whelan, who voices Maria in 16th century Spain. Maria is full of hunger for a better life. She wants autonomy to live the life that she wants. Whelan uses a Spanish accent when the characters are speaking, and her performance is really dark and sinister, which is perfect because Maria likes to plot. And when Maria meets an alluring widow, she snatches the opportunity to follow a different life path.
Okay, and I'm going to just take a guess here and say she becomes a vampire.
Ha ha! That is correct. You can read between the lines.
I can. So in this, it's like in her story of becoming a vampire is a way out.
Right. It's the way out of the life that she doesn't want and into the life that she does.
Okay. And go on. So tell us about the other 2 characters.
We flash forward to 21st century Boston, and we have Katie Leung voicing Alice, who is from Scotland. So Alice has this really soft Scottish accent. She's attending Harvard. She's grieving the loss of her sister and just trying to reinvent herself. She has a one-night stand, which is very peculiar for her. And then she wakes up with an unfamiliar hunger that only blood can satisfy. I bet you can guess what that's about.
I'm a vampire.
Yep. So her performance requires switching between Scottish and American accents. So you've got Alice's Scottish accent and then the American accents of all of the students attending Harvard with her. And she does this really seamlessly. Her narration's very gentle, and it does a good job of echoing Alice's deep sadness and insecurities.
Okay, and number 3.
Number 3. So we go back a little bit to 19th century London with Marisa Calin voicing Charlotte. Charlotte gets caught in a forbidden romantic moment, and then she is sent to London to be polished and find a husband.
Of course she is.
Of course. So Callan is narrating with this really crisp English accent, perfect for English nobility. And after a beautiful widow sweeps her off her feet, the price of Charlotte's new life takes an unimaginable toll. And I bet you can guess what that's about, too.
I bet I can as well. So it's interesting. So all 3 women are unhappy in some way. And the vampire is kind of, as I said, this metaphor for breaking free of that, except it seems like in the case of Alice, it might be a little more problematic than she thought.
It was certainly less of a choice.
Never good.
So the story's just unfolding as we sort of see these women's lives intertwine with each other in very surprising and interesting ways.
Wow. So who are we going to hear from?
So we're going to hear from Katie Leung narrating as Alice. Alice is reminiscing about her small hometown in Scotland, and she's watching her sister smash bottles with a baseball bat.
All right, this is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, read by Julia Whelan and Marisa Calin and Katie Leung. We'll be hearing from Katie.
The bottle shatters into stardust. Catty is 13 and Alice is 10, and they're in the gravel lot behind their granddad's pub, the baseball bat resting on Catty's shoulder as she sets another empty on the wooden stump that no one could be bothered to haul up when they made the parking lot. Not that it stopped them from cutting down the rest of the tree, and Alice has never understood why they didn't finish the job or leave it alone. It makes her sad every time she sees it. Alice sits cross-legged on the hood of someone's car and watches as her sister winds up again. She swings and the bottle shatters on impact. The sound is high and bright as bells, and Alice winces, even though she saw it coming, a kind of automatic flinch, because it's one of those sounds that means trouble. It's a rock pitched through a kitchen window, a pint knocked off a counter, a pair of glasses crunched under a clumsy foot, a girl taking out her heartbreak with a bat. Catty lines up another bottle on the wooden stump. A swing, a crack. For one brief, beautiful second, the glass dust hangs suspended in the glow from the streetlight, glittering like mist before it falls.
Wow, the writing is like poetry.
Yeah, it's stunning. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I look forward to anything that Schwab writes.
And Katie does it brilliantly.
Yeah.
She hasn't recorded that many audiobooks.
I hope she does more because
I hope she does too.
She's a great narrator.
And you know who she was? Did you see the Harry Potter movies?
A long time ago.
Yeah, Cho. Remember Harry Potter's first girlfriend?
I did not know that.
Yes, that's Katie Leung.
Okay. Wow. Small world.
It is a small world. So obviously, she has a career on the screen, but hopefully she'll stick to behind the mic too, because she really is a great narrator.
Yes.
All right, book number 2 of Monsters and Mainframes. Now that is another great title. So tell us about the writer and the narrators.
Sure. So Of Monsters and Mainframes is by Barbara Truelove, read by a full cast consisting of Chris Devon, Emana Rachelle, Charlie Albers, Eve Passeltiner, Zura Johnson, Cary Hite, and Gail Shalan.
Okay, and that's a lot. How is this narration divvied up here?
So each character gets their own narrator when the perspective shifts, but primarily you're going to hear Charlie Albers, and probably second most you're going to hear Eve Passeltiner.
Okay, and who are they narrating?
Charlie Albers is going to voice the AI spaceship Demeter primarily, and Eve Passeltiner is narrating the AI medical system called Steward. This book is just bonkers, but like in a really fun way. I love classic monster stories, and that's what this is. This is just a mashup of classic monster tales reimagined in the future where there's space travel. We get Dracula, we get werewolves, we have a hybrid human named Frank, like after Frankenstein's monster. We have a sentient colony of aliens that inhabit human corpses, think like zombies.
God.
And I don't know if you are familiar with Shadows over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft, but even the Cthulhu-worshipping fish people are in this book. It's a lot.
So everything, including that kitchen sink. And
Yes.
But does it work?
Oh, it works. It's such a fun story. We have Charlie Albers voicing Demeter, and Demeter is just a spaceship that shuttles travelers to and from Earth. But mysterious deaths begin to occur during her voyage, and it turns out that Dracula is on board and is taking out the rest of her passengers.
Well, clearly they didn't vet the passenger list very well.
No, they didn't. So what Charlie Albers does is narrate with a lot of articulation and a lot of consistent pacing, which is really good for AI spaceships. So it sells the character very well. But as the ship continues to suffer these tragedies and continues to lose its entire crew again and again, like you can feel the spaceship gain this really impressive emotional depth that Albers conveys just perfectly. She also voices a lot of the young children on board that are terrified by the scary things happening around him, and it just pulls at your heartstrings. But my absolute favorite voice that she does in this audiobook are the perky little spider droids that are just so happy-go-lucky and ready to do any task that they are assigned, regardless of how dangerous it is.
I know Charlie Albers from one book, How to Commit the Perfect Murder, 12 Easy Steps.
That's a
Which
great
is
title.
one of those titles, exactly. It's just, well, how do I not listen? And I really, really liked her a lot in that.
Oh, yeah. You're going to like her in this, too. So then we have the rest of the audiobook cast that's voicing the other characters. They're all phenomenal. I really, really like Eve Passeltiner's performance specifically. So the AI medical bot is extremely condescending and constantly exasperated, and it takes a special narrator to convey that so well. Because you also have to have that really articulate voice, that consistent pacing, because this is an AI. This is just an AI that thinks it's smarter than everyone else in the room.
On account of it is,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. So you get some really good banter, especially between Demeter and Steward. Whether it's Albers or Passeltiner narrating, it's laugh out loud. I definitely turned some heads when I was walking on the sidewalk laughing at some of their banter while listening. There's a reason I gave this one an earphones award. It's so good.
Now we're going to hear a clip. Are we going to hear from Eve Passeltiner?
Yes. So Eve Passeltiner is narrating as Steward. So for context, Demeter was invaded by fishy aliens that left the humans on board either dead or infected. And then there was an explosion, and Demeter and Steward were eventually recovered by humans looking for an explanation.
Okay, this is of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. It's read by a full cast. We'll be hearing from Eve Passeltiner.
I'm rudely awakened 4 days later by a human hammering a system diagnostics tool into one of my ports. I immediately firewall that particularly nasty piece of software and abruptly inform the human that I am functional. They want to know everything, absolutely everything, and get very excited when I tell them about the aliens. I watch them chitter-chatter among themselves as they review the footage, and I remind them at regular intervals that I was the one who first identified the extraterrestrial life. They don't seem to be listening, but someone else is. Aliens? A familiar voice chimes. My system stuttered to a stop for a split second. It can't be. Demeter?
Okay, I laughed too.
Yeah.
And this clip perfectly illustrates what you enjoyed about her performance, and she is fabulous.
Yes, she is. She's so fun.
So, am I right to conclude that this is a book that is funny and not terribly scary?
I didn't find it terribly scary. I mostly found it very funny. And part of that comes from the story is primarily narrated through the perspective of robots. They don't put a lot of emotion into it. They just tell you what's happening and then they make conclusions based on it. It's a really good way because, terrible things are definitely happening, but through their perspective, it's a lot easier to listen to.
Okay. And we're ending with
The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, read by Gisela Chípe.
Now, Silvia Moreno-Garcia wrote Mexican Gothic.
That's right.
Which was narrated by Frankie Corzo. And I had an interview with Frankie Corzo, so I was listening. I actually listened to Mexican Gothic, and we know I do not like being scared. But Frankie was a great narrator, and Silvia is an amazing writer.
So this is a multi-generational horror fantasy. We're starting the audiobook in 1998 with Minerva. She's working on her graduate thesis about the history of horror literature, and she's particularly interested in the writings of an obscure female horror author named Beatrice Tremblay. Minerva is from Mexico and attending college in the United States, and Gisela Chípe is balancing a Spanish lilt when voicing Minerva and then an American accent for all the rest of the students. Mm-hmm. She does that seamlessly.
Yeah, she really does do a really, really good job on that.
And then we go back to Mexico in 1908 with Alba, who is Minerva's grandmother, who is mourning the loss of her father and the disappearance of her brother. So she suspects supernatural forces are at play here. She thinks her family has been bewitched, but no one believes her. These segments have a lot of characters with much stronger Spanish accents. So Gisela Chípe is adjusting perfectly to convey that.
I agree. I have a problem with Alba's mother's voice, I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And as for her uncle, but if he is not a major bad guy, I will be stunned. But I love the description of that time period. And, she's such a visual writer. And I think that Gisela Chípe is just so well poised just to deliver that narration perfectly.
Oh, yeah. Finally, we have these chapters that take place in 1934 at the same college that Minerva is attending, but from the perspective of budding horror writer Beatrice Tremblay. So we're learning the story about the disappearance of Beatrice's roommate, and that disappearance went on to inspire her debut novel that Minerva is studying in 1998. And for these segments of the story, I don't know if you've gotten to this part in the audiobook.
I have.
Okay, so she uses a transatlantic accent, that like movie accent that you hear from like 30s and 40s films. It's perfect. Like
I kept thinking of Katharine Hepburn.
Oh yeah, it's so spot on, and it really gets you right in the time period.
Absolutely. I'm just immersed, and I'm scared, but I'm so immersed in it.
I know, it's perfect.
So who are we going to hear from?
We're going to hear from Minerva's perspective. So Minerva is on her college campus and reminiscing about the stories her grandmother told her about witches.
Yes. Okay, this is The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, read by Gisela Chípe.
Back then, when I was a young woman, there were still witches. That was what Nana Alba used to say when she told Minerva bedtime stories. It was the preamble that led into a realm of shadows and mysteries. Shortly after Minerva first arrived at Stoneridge, she'd looked toward the thick mass of trees that constituted Briar's Commons and heard a shrill cry that sounded like an infant's wail. For a moment, she'd shivered in fear, thinking of her great-grandmother's tales of witches who drank the blood of the innocent on moonless nights. But it had been only a peacock. She was used to the birds now, the gray peahens and the beautiful males with their dazzling displays of iridescent feathers. They'd sun themselves on the lawn in front of Ledge House, and sometimes they'd even sit on the porch of the old mansion.
That change of pacing that she does, that seems very natural. It doesn't seem performative.
It's like you're there with Minerva the whole time.
Aside from being an immersive narration, I think it's also a remarkably smart narration, because there is so much going on here. And if you don't have a command of the playing field, so to speak, it's really hard to deliver a narration that is so spot on.
Yeah.
So those are your 3 books, all of them centered around, tell me again one more time.
This was Vampires, Monsters, and Witches.
A lovely thing to think about in late August.
Oh, yeah.
But you like that all the time. I mean, I think of you as the fantasy horror person.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely where my interests are. So these fit in nicely.
I know, and I learned so much from you, Alex. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And I'll talk to you next month.
Yes. See you then.
See you then. Support for Behind the Mic comes from Hachette Audio, publisher of the audiobook edition of Kiss Her Goodbye by Lisa Gardner, narrated by Hillary Huber. Behind the Mic is produced by Jessica Lockhart. Robin Whitten, Michelle Cobb, Stephen Cummings, Leslie Fine, Alan Minskoff, Alex Richey, Laura Rossi, and Kendra Winchester are our contributors. Jennifer Dow and Coco McCracken are our editors. And the music is William Ross Chernoff's Nomads 4-Way. And I'm your host, Jo Reed. Good listening.